Hello, everybody, and welcome on into the starting nine. Martino, Puccio, Mike Phillips alongside you guys. We are full blown into April. March Madness is wrapped up. And if you guys have not already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel over here at U Stadium. Follow Mike at mphillips331 on all social media accounts and myself at Martino Puccio everywhere. Mike, how you doing? What did you think of March Madness finally wrapping up as you thought all along Michigan was too good for everybody, huh?
Yeah, it was a good year. I won the bracket pool. I got nailed the entire Final Four. I had Michigan over UConn, so won both bracket pools. Felt good to actually, this was one year where watching the games actually paid off for me.
Yes, quite literally, and probably the only time you're okay with Michigan winning a national championship. That's the first time in my life that I've seen them win it in basketball. But
Yep.
anyways, let's get into the baseball stuff. So, not the greatest of news with the Mets because we'll start off with here. Juan Soto to the IL with calf tightness. He was rounding second base where he ends up just pulling up lame. There was a lot of speculation on what it was, and initially, he thought it was calf tightness and ends up being a calf strain. He went to the IL. Typical recovery by the Mets, we're saying 2 to 3 weeks, Mike, retroactive to April 4th already. So he's been on there for a couple days. He was saying he was feeling fine, but it's April. The Mets won a few ball games without him. Ewing theory, a little bit out there. But ultimately, the Mets are playing this safe, and that's exactly what they should do, right?
Yeah, there's no reason to push this. This is I know all the Met fans are panicking last week when they lost three in a row to the Cardinals and the Giants. It's like it's early April. March Madness just ended, as you said a minute ago here. We don't need to be, sending Juan Soto out in these cold weather games. I know the Mets moved 2 games up in this series because they didn't want to be dealing with the cold and the wind for the fans. So
Correct.
there's no reason to push Juan Soto in April with a calf strain. You can take 2 weeks, like rest it up, maybe go get a few swings in AAA or AA if you want to feel comfortable with that here. No reason to make this into a bigger issue than it needs to be. And, you
Right.
have a situation where you're Carlos Mendoza, you're trying to find at bats for your bench guys. So they're useful over the course of the year. You've seen Jared Young have some good reps from the Mets here. Tyrone Taylor caught the bench, hit a big pinch hit 3-run homer. We have, Mark Vientos is in getting more run. He's in hitting well. So, this is early, okay, get some of these guys in the flow when Soto comes back in more options, more well-rounded team because guys aren't just rotting on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just kind of disappointing because he was off to a phenomenal start. He's
Yep.
basically getting hit in every single game. And that hunger for the MVP is definitely something that he wanted. But 2 to 3 weeks, it's not the end of the world. I think that the Mets showing that they're capable of producing without him. And you mentioned Jared Young. Jared Young had a fantastic throw in left field. And I believe that was his first ever start in the outfield in Major League Baseball. I could be wrong. And the Mets have been making a lot of players and, just a lot of different positional versatility being shown, especially in that series against the Giants. You have to play it safe with Juan. And I know a lot of people are just like, well, how are they going to cope with like this player or that player, like, not doing well enough without him? They have enough guys in this lineup that they could be streaky enough to carry offenses. And I guess we'll just kind of segue right into it with Mark Vientos. This Vientos resurgence, Mike, has been electric after having an incredibly tough time in spring training and in the World Baseball Classic for Nicaragua. Vientos has balled out, and he's using all fields, hit that bomb in the first game against the Giants, or maybe it might have been in the second game in that 4 game set. He looks incredibly comfortable. And I've said this last year when we were talking in our group chat, and this is something that I at least wanted to see him have an opportunity. And you mentioned that it presented itself with all these injuries here, and Mendoza talked about it. He could carry an offense. He's not the most well-rounded hitter. He goes through periods of time where you're like, I don't know if this guy will ever hit a ball again. But when Vientos is hot, he could carry an entire offense. We kind of saw that a little bit in San Francisco. What did you think of Mark here? And he was showing the leather a little bit too. Let's not take away from that too much. First base, you pretty good.
Yeah, Mark looked pretty good at first base. So they felt more comfortable there. He looked like ever did at third base, which is something you're encouraged about if you're a Met fan. And now he doesn't play there with Bo Bichette and Beatty being ahead of him on the depth chart for third. Like
Right.
the end is one of those guys where, like maybe we were oversold a bit in 2024 when he's when he hits 27 homers and when he's, carrying the Mets in the postseason. Like,
Right.
the one thing about this guy, he's very streaky. He's on a heater right now. You like to see him become more consistent, but maybe the heater's well timed because Juan Soto is out. Maybe Mark Vientos is hot for 2 weeks, and then as he's cooling off, Juan Soto is back. So it does, I think, work out for the Mets in that perspective.
Yeah, because I believe it was his August last year where he was sensational, where a lot of his stats for the entire year were pretty much skewed. I think when you look back on his 2025, and I'm not a big excuse maker, but there was some poor luck in there at the start of the season that he ends up getting hurt, ends up losing his position or whatever time that he was afforded to play with the Mets, and then slowly got back into things. And then it was a too little, too late, I guess you could say, towards the end of the year. However, I think you make a great point where Soto's out for a couple weeks. You have a guy that could go nuclear, and that's basically what he's doing right now. Going the other way with the ball too, showing off power. I just him playing a good glove at first base. While you also mentioned Jorge Polanco isn't healthy enough to play there is a big boost for the Mets. They have quite a few guys there, and I know a lot of people don't want to go off of defensive WAR, but he's leading NL East first baseman in WAR to start the year so far. It is very early, but it's a .4 WAR over there. I'm happy for Mark because I think when you have a player that has so much confidence in himself in pockets of space, not all the time as we mentioned, that's huge for an offense because regardless if Vientos puts together a full season or not, just to have a guy that can carry an offense for a certain amount of weeks. And this was also part of the problem with the Mets last year that they were very streaky. I think they've shown more consistency and it's kind of paid off. We'll get into some of these other players here. Mark is just that valuable to me. I think his bat played so well that you have this defensive versatility in a way, just more so at first base. I wouldn't say overall versatility, but he's a versatile player in that his bat plays at DH. It could play at first base, similar to Jorge Polanco. I know Beatty could play kind of all over the place. The Mets have a bevy of options that they could put at first base and DH. It's slowly starting to pay off, even though we're very early on in the season here. Where do you think he ultimately ends up playing? Like, say, Polanco's Achilles issue kind of subsides, but it is tendonitis that'll probably linger for some time. Do you anticipate Vientos playing more of first base as time goes on?
I think they're going to give Polanco a run at first base to see if he can actually handle the position because that was one of their big bets is that, like, as legend, he'd been trained with Seattle to play first base, never gotten a game. Like, they're going to give him the opportunity to play that position because I think in terms of athleticism, is probably a better ability to field there than Vientos is. But, like, I think at some point, I think Mark at minimum is going to be the left-handed hitting DH of the Mets. I think, like, when you deal with these tough lefties, Vientos will be in the lineup for those games. And I do also look at the situation. I think something you're positive. You're looking at Vientos' stat line here. Vientos only 3 strikeouts and 21 at bats so far, which is a much, again, small sample size, drastic improvement for him, who's about 28% of the time in each of the previous 2 years.
He wasn't chasing as much, and this was also like a statistic that I think you had me pull up last week from Anthony DeComo, where he was talking about the Mets as a whole were not chasing as much. You kind of saw that with Vientos in San Francisco. He was drawing a good amount of walks there. I think he's just going to keep on playing, and Mendy has no choice but to at this rate. It's just really nice to see a player like this, and because Mets fans love to romanticize the limited postseason success that this franchise has had over the past, 25 years or so. That this sort of player has finally put himself back into it because with that spring training and World Baseball Classic, a lot of people were just like trade him for a pitcher, put him out somewhere. Let's get somebody in like Mitch Keller, right? Like we talked about it in the preseason as well. I'm just happy to see him like that. Any other final comments on the bats before we move on to that? Did you see anything in San Francisco? It was nice to see Marcus Semien step up because he had a fantastic series against San Francisco.
Yeah, I think specifically like that 8th inning on Sunday when Logan Webb comes out and then they just start stringing hits together here. It feels like the 2022 Mets were very much this way, but I feel like it's a more like dynamic group that 2022 group ended up being because I think like 2022 for a while they were just 2-out hits, stringing runs together. I think you like that approach. I think like it's a higher upside this group the 2022 group had.
Yeah, because it's not mentally the same type of guys. We'll get into some the other players and former Mets and how they've been doing because there are some funny sound bites over there. Yeah, I'm just happy with everybody all around you. I mean, even Beatty's showing up some stuff. Francisco Alvarez for the catching situation. I'll get to that real quick before we move on to the final subject with the Mets. I just love that they have the ability to have someone like Luis Torrens come off the bench like that, just in
Yeah.
these late game situations. I still think Francisco Alvarez is just he's not good enough or consistent enough defensively for the Mets to do a good enough job that you don't have to worry about him. I think his bat will play well enough. I think he's shown enough from last year after coming back up. And then, this year to the start of the year where he's working counts, he's showing off his immense power and bat at all like. I like him moving forward. Oh, and one other thing that I like to bring up because it just popped into my head over there. Is JD Martinez a magician or like what do you think? Do you buy into that? Because the second he was announced that he was coming back with the Mets, Mark Vientos kind of turned things around. Do you buy into that, or is that just a silly coincidence?
I think it's just a coincidence. I mean, I don't think he's even stepped in the building yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think so either. So yeah, going over to this, Clay Holmes is dealing right now, Mike. I think you and I had mentioned this maybe on the podcast, but we have definitely spoke about it in our chat. When Clay Holmes is your number 4 or number 5, and you have your pitchers like Nolan McClay, Freddie Peralta, and what we've seen from Senga has been a bit unfortunate. His starts have been strong, but when Clay Holmes is your number 4 and he's pitching like this, the Mets are you're in a really good spot for this. And I mentioned it. David Stearns hit this signing out of the park, and then you immediately responded with, "Well, you better be happy with him because he's definitely opting out after this year." Clay Holmes is, yeah, I mean, this transition from reliever to starter was kind of mocked at by some people at first. Now David Stearns is having the laughs.
Yeah, I mean, people last year were bagging on Clay Holmes that long stretch where he couldn't get out of the fifth inning at a certain point. People forgot, this is a guy who, again, was going from relieving to starting last year. There was 165 innings, but they're never throwing more than 70 in a big league season prior to this. He has an ERA of 3.5. He has a solid whip. He racks up 129 strikeouts and in there. And like you people forget here, game 161, probably his best start of the year, and the Mets had everything on the line with Clay Holmes. And like if they had made the postseason, Clay Holmes in the postseason rotation, whether or not people want to admit it, like he was that good last year, and now that he has this foundation, 165 innings to work from. There's a good chance that you're getting 180, 190 innings out of Clay Holmes. He can stay healthy. That's huge in this day and age.
I mean, to do that, it's just you're right. Just on any level with any starting pitcher to get that amount of innings is tremendous. But him doing that after that transition in his 30s at the price that the Mets got him at, it's insane to me. I'd also like to point out he's gone the furthest out of any Mets starter so far this season with that start in San Francisco. Obviously, his ground ball rate is something huge for the Mets. That infield defense is improved. You saw a better job by Bo Bichette, and we'll get into some of the other infield defense that happened over in San Francisco. But Clay Holmes, man, I mean, this is one of the better signings in Major League Baseball the past couple years relative to the price that he was signed for. He's invaluable for the Mets. If he could pitch at this level, they could figure out the fifth starter, which I still don't fully buy into David Peterson because he looked like he was batting practice in game 1 in San Francisco. But yeah, Clay Holmes has been immense. Any other final comments on the Mets before we head on over to the Bronx?
Now we can go to the Bronx. I think we're good here.
Yeah, this is something that you highly wanted to talk about, which we'll get into the third subject here. Yankees 6 through 9. They are struggling. There is no denying it. They're off to a fantastic start this year. Obviously, whatever, your schedule is your schedule, but this is how the Yankees win the division all the time while they're a powerhouse because they beat the teams that they're supposed to. You and I both had the Miami Marlins as a sneaky great team that would be in the NL this year. Basically, since July of last year, the Marlins have been one of the better teams in all of Major League Baseball. I believe they're up there with the Dodgers with most wins in the NL. Obviously, it's a bigger sample size, but you're talking about picking up from July on. These guys are not doing well. Specifically, Austin Wells, I guess, is the one guy that comes to mind for me. Listen, it was funny because everybody thought his bat would play better than his glove, but he's turned into a solid and respectable defensive catcher. But the bat is worrisome. I would say, for the Yankees. Is that something that you're scared of in the long run for him? I think that they have the guys to supplement for this. Obviously, when Volpe comes back, that'll change things. McMahon, like, nobody should be surprised by this with Ryan McMahon. Like, this is the type of hitter that he's been this entire time, especially coming over from Colorado. Do you foresee these issues with the Yankees bottom of the lineup playing a bigger part in this season, I guess you could say?
Yeah, well, I think the Jazz is in that group because Jazz is just a buck 94 going into this week. So him I wouldn't be worried about as much because he'll probably turn around and do his usual numbers here. That bottom three, Caballero, you mentioned, obviously is not hitting, but Volpe's coming back. And again, we have to see Volpe be healthy. And last year, Yankees mismanaged him because he got hurt for the shoulder. Oh, he's fine. He's fine. After he needs surgery, he's not ready for April. That's a problem.
Right.
I think the bigger issue, I mean, Austin Wells is what he is. And if your catcher is defending well and hits like 220, I don't think you're base year. Ryan McMahon going through that 0 for 20 stretch with all the strikeouts here, when you gave up like nothing for him, yes, but you took on his contract this year and next year, that's a
Mhm.
problem. Like he better be playing like platinum glove defense. He's not giving you anything at the plate.
Which is like, I guess, like something that they'll take because they do struggle defensively at times, especially with their, like, I mean, like, again, not to harp on it because we're talking about the hitting side of things, but when you see Jazz Chisholm throw over to first base, where it's like he's playing in your men's softball league, like, it's inexcusable shit that the Yankees are like doing sometimes. I'm not worried about them as a whole. They're still the premier team in the American League, most likely. It's just little things like that that keep on popping up that eventually get magnified in playoff series that they end up losing when they probably should be representing the American League every single year, considering their resources and the talent that they have. I think that's where it starts to get mind numbing. I think they'll be fine once Anthony Volpe comes back in. He's going to provide more pop over there. We'll see what happens with George Lombard. I don't. I think McMahon is like marginally better than what he's shown. I don't think he's drastically better. Caballero, this is kind of who he is too. Austin Wells, I think, could be a bit better behind the plate in terms of hitting as your catcher. But the large in part, these are kind of who these players are, right? It's not like anybody should be caught off guard entirely, right? Like these are fairly limited players overall.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about how great Ryan McMahon was last year for the Yankees. He did 208 last year in 54 games for the Yankees. It's not like he's setting the world on fire here. He's just like competent with the glove, which they did not have from some of the guys that are running out there.
Right.
He's a big leaguer, an overpaid big leaguer, but he is a big leaguer, which is something like if he's going to be hitting eighth and you guys how you were hitting, great, but like some point, like obviously Judge is Judge. Maybe Stanton might cool off or get hurt. Is
Right.
Ben Rice to do this for a full season? Like at some point, these guys are gonna have to contribute.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll see if that ends up happening. But right now, the Yankees are in a great spot. Someone who's not really in a great spot right now is Yankees top prospect, Spencer Jones. Also, talk about Jasson Dominguez a little bit. Jones is struggling. Basically, the major issue with Jones that have been highlighted as a prospect is the amount that he strikes out. Kind of Joey Gallo esque, if you will. A player that I guess the Yankees and reports were kind of not reluctant to add in deals for certain players. I guess it really depends. They're like, oh, the Yankees are willing to do it for Paul Skeens. It's sort of like, yeah, no shit, you are. There was a statistic out there: 15 strikeouts in 25 plate appearances. He is struggling mightily. There is power there. There is talent there. However, we all know this, Mike. When you're striking out at that rate at the AAA level, God only knows what's going to happen at the major league level. The Yankees don't see him ready. I think they've been proven right so far. What do you do with Spencer Jones in a situation like this? Obviously, he's just going to have to keep on playing in AAA. Maybe the numbers will change, but this is not a good sign to start the year. You just can't be doing that. And, say even if they don't view him in the long term for the major league team, the value for trades goes down the more he struggles in the minor leagues. Do you see a resolution for Spencer Jones here? Is he just going to have to hit his way out of it? Because I don't see any other way for him.
He's gonna have to hit his way out of it because I mean, you mentioned the total like 19 strikeouts and 33 at bats is very bad
It got worse.
for the AAA level, and like I know we joke about off the air last year about Yankees are only going to trade him for Paul Skeens. I think it's a ridiculous statement of them trying to overhype their prospects again because Spencer Jones is not even a top 100 prospect in the league anymore. Like he's fallen off those lists. So no duh, you'll trade him for Paul Skeens. The Pirates will take him. The Pirates will not, by the way. That's a separate conversation. But the Yankees did him no favors either when they started saying, "Oh, look, we have the next Aaron Judge. We have another tall right-hand hitting outfielder with power in our system who can play center field." They need to stop this. They need to stop taking everybody the next superstar player. Let these guys come up, play, and actually have an opportunity to do this in the big leagues. And you can say Spencer Jones has not earned it yet, which is fair because he has to, not strike out 200 times in the minor leagues. But his main thing, they got to work on the chase rate here. Okay, stop chasing everything into the zone. Have a little more plate discipline, and maybe you will get better pitches to hit because he does flash that power. He had a grand slam the other day, which is ridiculous. But at some point, we need a little more consistency if you're going to be a big leaguer.
Yeah, I agree. There is upside with it. The Aaron Judge side of things too. It's a little silly to always compare because at the end of the day, sure, on a prospect level, they were similar in that regard. But then again, it's Aaron Judge. You're basically saying one of the greatest hitters ever is going to suddenly just sprout out of nowhere. It's just kind of silly to expect. I feel bad. Again, we talk about this almost every single week, the hype that some of these Yankees prospects get. It's unfair to them. And one of those guys is Jasson Dominguez, who we'll talk about. I do feel bad for him on a level. You always see the flashing of the bat, right? That you see because it's a switch hitter. We saw it at the major league level last year. We've seen it basically throughout his entire career. He's at that similar hype level of what, to me, Gleyber Torres was at one point. We heard about the Martian, the Cuban Mickey Mantle, all these other things where, this guy is getting all this sort of hype. And then you see him in the outfield play defense and you're like, okay, this guy is just not ready at the major league level. He said he wasn't comfortable enough in left field at certain points in time. I just don't think he's that comfortable there on all levels. You mentioned he had a nice catch at the minor league level the other day or something. And I'm just here to say I don't dislike Jasson Dominguez. I think if anyone's failing him right now, it's the New York Yankees. It's not necessarily all their fault or all Brian Cashman's fault, but I don't think at the end of the day they put him in a position to succeed. I think he just obviously needs to keep continuing to develop at the minor league level defensively. Give him a position and say, you are our left fielder for the future or the short term. Keep on developing there. And then say Trent Grisham plays himself out of center field, or there's a scenario in which Bellinger goes to center or Bellinger could go to first or whatever. And then you can occupy left field. As of right now, what do you think the situation is with Dominguez? Is this really just a path eventually that he comes up to the Yankees sooner or later? Because it just doesn't feel like there is a great plan for him to succeed with the Yankees at this current moment. And that's just how I view it.
I don't understand the Dominguez thing at all, how they've handled it. Because remember when he came up in 23, how amazing he was. That was 3 weeks he was here, and it's homering every other day. And he has the surgery, and then at the end of 24, they're making the playoff run. They refused to bring him up. They kept playing guys over him in the outfield. I remember infamously, who was the left fielder on that 24 team that they kept putting in over him? Because I'm trying to remember this because there was a defensive outfit that would not take out.
That I can't even recall at this point. If it's
look this up real quick in terms of who the was on. They had Alex Verdugo. They would not take out.
Oh god, yeah. Jeez, was that long ago. I mean, even they were using him in 2024 too. They eventually got rid of him that year.
Yeah. To add to this point here, 25, he plays. Doesn't do much. They send him down this year to another spot for him, which makes sense. This whole thing's okay. Learn how to play defense. You're going to learn how to hit lefties because his righty stats are here. You know how many at bats he's gotten against lefties in the minor league so far?
At bats in his entire career, or just this year?
This year, when their whole thing was we need to learn how to hit lefties. He's going to play.
I'd imagine it's under 10 at bats.
4. They sat him back-to-back games against lefties last week in AAA.
They sat him against lefties in AAA.
Yeah, which means what are you doing? Why? What is the plan here? The guy is hitting in AAA, seeing 379s on OPS over 1100. It's a small sample size, yes, but this man needs to play baseball games. He needs to face left-handed pitching. You want him to be useful to you in the big leagues.
That's That's I'm sorry, that's moronic. That you when you do that, we see that at the major league level all the time, right? Because it's one of those things that what happened with Michael Conforto. We've seen that a little bit with Carson Bench so far. Obviously, Beatty, same thing. It's difficult at the major league level facing lefties. But most of the time people are saying, you have to put these guys in there to at least give them a chance. But the counter to it is we're at the major league level, we need to win ball games. Okay, fair enough. To your point, what's the excuse at the AAA level? Who gives a shit what happens at AAA results wise? You're supposed to be developing these players, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
The psychological perspective that goes into that. It's like, sure, you want to say, oh, it's like a challenge for Dominguez. That I don't see how this helps him in any way. This is the thing that the Yankees do that to me just looks so dumb sometimes. Where you're sitting there saying to yourselves, this is still a top class organization. They still develop major leaguers. They're winning ball games at the major league level. And then they go out and do stupid stuff like that. And you're supposed to say, okay, what's wrong with the Yankees? That's part of the problem. You
Yeah.
can't have your star prospect sitting against lefties at the AAA level, good or bad. He has to do something. That's damning. I think that's a great point brought up. Go ahead, though.
Yeah, he's only 23. It's not like this is a guy who's 27. You're like, okay, he is what he is. Like he hasn't even hit his prime yet. There's a chance, like he could figure this out and be your center fielder next year. Like if he improves defensively, but as you and I both think Trent Richardson is not coming back after this 1 year is up.
Well,
So
yeah, I would unless they sign him to a deal. That's just
it's malpractice.
I actually it is. And I know there's more things that you want to kind of get upset about. You are an avid ballpark goer. At Citi Field, obviously, you love it. You always, whenever there is something that you like or dislike at a ballpark, or me or our good friends are the first to know about it. I always greatly appreciate it because I am someone who likes to enjoy games at the comfort of my home, but will always enjoy going to games. The Yankees had a disaster on Sunday. And I am just going to let you take the floor with this. Basically, I'll set it up for everybody. If you're in the New York area, you basically know what happened. The Yankees kept delaying their ball game on Sunday against the Marlins, kept pushing it back and back. It's one thing to do that, Mike, but the way the Yankees handled pretty much everything else outside of that was a disaster. So you have the floor.
Okay, so for those of you who are not in the New York area right now, like this is Easter Sunday also, I mentioned, not just any regular Sunday. This was an Easter Sunday situation where you have a religious holiday, you have the 1:35 game scheduled. You say, okay, maybe, we got tickets to the ball game. We're going to go to our family dinner afterwards. It'll be a good day. Rains in the forecast the whole week. And it rained. We knew for like 4 days. It's going to rain in the middle of the day on Sunday. We're going to, have to deal with this. If you want to play the game, you got to play it either later or postpone it and go back. The Yankees at 8 o'clock in the morning, they say, we're opening the gates on time at noon. Don't worry. You're going to be open your gates, come in. In his pregame press conference, Aaron Boone says, basically, we're waiting a while here. We know the forecast looks terrible. It's going to be before we play baseball games. The Yankees open the gates at noon. They basically put out no real updates until about like 4:30 when you've been sitting in the rain and the cold for 4.5 hours. We're playing at 5:10. They made their fans sit outside in the rain and cold for 4 hours before giving them an update on the game. They play the game. They lose the game. The fans there get no benefit from this. There's no like, we're sorry. No, okay, here's, 2 vouchers, a ticket voucher for a future game. None of that. They just opened the stadium early, so how could sell chicken buckets 4 hours when they knew as well in advance, when you could have just moved the game to 4:10 and said, okay, guys, the weather forecast looks bad. We know this is a holiday. Here's a 4 o'clock game. If you want to come, great. If not, we'll, give you a voucher or something. No, they had to go sell their chicken buckets. So how can pay us New York City taxes? And then, they left the fans screwed. I've heard stories online about, I left at 3 o'clock because I was getting no updates. Now I'm screwed. I'm out of my money. I had somebody else tell me on social media, like, I brought my grandkids to the game. Like, then they couldn't sit in the cold for 5 hours. And now they're all sad. Right. They have a year on. Nothing. Compare this to the Mets being proactive on the other end. Steve Cohen, like with the bad forecast, 2 days, yesterday, announces, okay, we have 2 games against Arizona at night. It's going to be windy. It's going to be cold. It's going to be miserable. I'm moving the games up 3 hours to 4:10, so the fans don't have to sit in the cold for as long. Like
Right.
we are giving away free tickets to people who want to come. We are honoring the tickets that were in today. If you had a ticket to the game, you're getting a voucher. Either you use your tickets or not, you're getting a voucher to come back to a different game in
Right.
April and May. Like that's how you treat your customers, not the bullshit the Yankees pulled.
It's just I'm not really surprised by it.
Oh, I'm
And
not either. Hal's always been cheap in this sense.
and and you mentioned the game was slated to start at 1 p.m., correct? The
It was
original?
1:35 first pitch. We knew for 3 days that was going to rain in the
Right.
middle of the day on Sunday.
And the other part was I think you were putting it nicely, people were there for 4 hours. No, they were there even earlier, probably because of the idea that it was gonna be at 1:30. There are people, obviously, like yourself, who show up earlier to
I,
get into the stadium. So
I'm,
you're
I'm,
talking.
I'm saying basically, my argument is that the gates are opening at
No,
noon.
of course, exactly. It's you can't do that to people.
No,
And as far as we know, there's been no update to kind of rectify this with fans who went, lost out on money and all that kind of stuff. It's it's a joke, and this is probably the biggest issue against the Yankees and how they've done things since they've opened up this version of Yankee Stadium is that it never caters to the average fan and customer, if you will. It's always about getting as much money as possible, which is the bigger issue that Yankees fans think that they're too corporate. And they keep on proving themselves right in that with stuff like this. This is I think it's laughable to do that and then end up losing that game the way it went down too. It was a
yeah.
disaster for them. Um, but yeah, any other final thoughts on that? Or
And
your rant was good.
I understand the organization's a difficult spot here because the way the schedule is,
Right.
because it's not like it's not like the Rays are here. Oh, we'll just have the game made up next time. It's the Marlins coming to the Bronx there one time, which means you either have to get the game in that day, figure out a mutual off day situation, which could, is difficult with everybody playing, everybody traveling all over the place. There was no reason with the forecast you had not to say, okay, this is a 4:10 first pitch. And, we'll open the gates at 2:30. There was no reason to do that and just, prolong people's misery and that then give them nothing for having to do that miserable experience. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It's the entire experience now is designed because they don't think they need to do that because they know that it's a hip thing to go to Yankee games and that every tourist who comes into this town wants to go sit at Yankee Stadium, eat a chicken bucket, and watch Aaron Judge.
Well, they'll could be given more opportunities to do that. Hopefully, the Yankees rectify that situation over there. And going over to more controversial ownership, the Boston Red Sox, one of my favorite picks in preseason, not looking good.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I ended up winning the World Series.
Well, you know what? You look worse than me, so I'll take it. No, I mean, this is just as bad of a start that you can get. And obviously for people like myself who follow European soccer very closely, Liverpool is having a disastrous season as well. There was a shot of John Henry yesterday at Fenway Park, hearing the boos and chants of sell the team. This has slowly been building for years, Mike, right? Like this isn't something new that we've seen in the questioning of John Henry's ownership and how he's gone about things, really starting with the Mookie Betts situation. We're starting to see some of the players that they traded for Rafael Devers shining with other ball clubs. Most notably Tibbs with the Dodgers at the AAA level. He's shining over there. Kyle Harrison doing very well for the Milwaukee Brewers. Durbin not doing well for the Boston Red Sox. Roman Anthony, having a noodle arm in the outfield. We see Wilson Contreras fighting with the Brewers for the umpteenth time. The Red Sox have gotten off to a disastrous start to the season. There is no way we could sugarcoat that. I don't know if they could turn it around. I'm not really sure what they could do. They haven't spent money. Obviously, Alex Bregman was one of those guys who didn't want to not extend there because the Red Sox just didn't do enough to offer in the realm of that money. And, Rafael Devers traded away too. It's just the Red Sox, this is kind of what they deserve because of the way that they've built out their team. They wanted to cut corners, and now it's backfired on them. And I honestly don't feel bad for them in any way. And this is coming from someone who might have financial, some bills on them, so to speak, some tabs, some bets. I mean, this is just it's bad. It's almost every single facet of them playing right now is just backfiring. The bullpen is not looking good. Defense looks shoddy. Lineup isn't looking competitive. The pitching is not there. Mike, it's bad. It could get out of hand fast. But fortunately for them, the Orioles are kind of sucking. The Blue Jays are also a disaster. The only ones coming out looking good right now are the Yankees in the AL East. But the Red Sox, is it more of a meltdown, or this is kind of what we probably should have seen?
Yeah, I think we overestimated the young kids for the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox did too. And their whole idea is, they're trying to, cut corners, as he said. And I think the way they handled the Rafael Devers situation is like a masterclass in incompetence, because you have this whole thing where you give him this long-term contract because he's an elite hitter. You don't love his defense at third, but you figure, okay, this is a guy who we like, be the anchor of our lineup. He crushes Garrett Cole. He's a Yankee killer. Great. They don't consult him when they bring in Bregman to play his positions. Just expect him to be high moved to first. They trade him away for garbage, basically, to get out of his contract. They go ahead and they don't keep Alex Bregman, who apparently said that he was willing to go back, and they were kind of, hedging that, like hemming and hawing about this. They give the money to Ranger Suarez. ERA is over 8 in his first 2 starts with the Red Sox, which is not great. Trevor Story, who they gave a huge contract to, is hitting $130 over the first 10 games of the season here. Like, how you end up with this group that feels like you need all your kids to be superstars to save the season is a problem. Like, that should not be what happened. You had a very good, middle of the lineup here. You had some good pitching here. And like we've talked about, like Sonny Gray sure is good.
Yeah.
Ranger Suarez feels like overkill compared to like when you had, kids like Connolly Early and Tolley and Bayo, who are all pretty good contributors. Like, you took that money, should have gone to your offense, threw it in your pitching staff, and now it's going to and with a guy who's a soft tossing lefty, won't age well.
Soft tossing lefty won't age well. Doesn't throw for a lot of innings. He was given what was it, 5 years, around 130, 150 million, right? So who got that kind of money? That was an offensive player that would have fit perfectly with them.
Alex Bregman.
Well, I was also going to say Pete Alonso, but it's right. Like, what's the difference at that point? You needed that power bat. I understand they traded for Contreras. It didn't matter. Even if you wanted to give it to Bregman, you were saying you still have good, infielders within the team. Trading away Kyle Harrison too. But this is what the Red Sox get when you're playing cheap as a major franchise in a huge market like that. They deserve every single shit that is getting tossed their direction, because it's loser operation. It just is. Like, you cannot cut corners and expect to compete with the New York Yankees or the Toronto Blue Jays when they're operating the way that they're operating, and especially in my opinion, a wide open American League. Ranger Suarez was, on paper, a fine signing, right? Because he's a good pitcher. But ultimately, was that the right fit for the Boston Red Sox in terms of finances? No. And then they look stupid trading away Kyle Harrison. Right after what happened for trading for Devers. Like this, I want to put probably Devers at the Hall of Fame level, but when they've traded away Devers and Mookie Betts and what they've gotten back for those players, imagine if it's any other franchise, right? How much would we be ripping into them? The Red Sox haven't they get it enough, but their own fan base holds them accountable. But holy shit, Mike, it's some of the worst returns in baseball history for the level of players that they were and the production that they've gotten back in those trades. It's pathetic. The amount of talent that the Red Sox have let out the door and what they haven't gotten back in return, they deserve everything that's coming in their direction right now. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything left to say with that. But you also see things on the field, right? Like, talk about their baseball decisions. Roman Anthony looks like he has the yips in left field. He can't throw the ball. He can't hit a cutoff, man. It's a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue. I do think also here, the main selling point I think a lot of people saw when you had the light return on Rafael Devers as a player, it's like, okay, they cleared the money. They're going to use the money to go get somebody important. They spent their money on Ranger Suarez. They didn't add a bat when they really needed a bat. Like, we talk about Pete Alonso, the Orioles may regret that contract in 2 years, but you imagine Pete Alonso hitting with the Green Monster?
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Like, they didn't want to do the years on it. That was the difference. Yeah. They were in the same offer as the Mets, which is stupid, because it's okay, say Alonso doesn't have any 5-year offers. You think he's going to go to you guys when he has a similar offer to just stay back home? Like, no, you are not in a position anymore to dictate terms of deals, especially when there's other teams out there offering more years on players that want the years.
Yeah.
Who are you at this point? Because they also could have done this, Mike, where you could put Alonso at first base, and then you also have Contreras traded for, and he's your DH. That would have been so much better for your lineup. You didn't have to trade for Durbin. Like a lot of the issues that the Red Sox have at this current moment in time, to your point, could have been fixed with finances, but they chose to be cheap in certain aspects of it, and now it's backfired them on so many levels in what is more of a wide open American league than some people would like to admit. And the division's too tough to be cutting corners like that. This is exactly what John Henry deserves for operating the way that he's operated with the Boston Red Sox. I don't think that there's anything left to say with that, unless you have a final comment.
My thought is more just, like, it's sort of like you mentioned the point of the contracts here. And like, we can understand the Met perspective, when you have these two mega deals on your books, right? With Soto and Lindor. If you worry about how Pete's aging, you don't want to give Pete 5 years. The Red Sox don't have that issue. The Red Sox don't have those mega contracts here. Their biggest deals are for Crochet, who has a reasonable extension for a pitcher, and Rowan Anthony, who basically bought his prime years out. You could give either Alonso or Bregman a big contract to be like an anchor to your lineup, a veteran leader for your team. Like, they chose not to do that, and they're paying the price for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So a team that is kind of paying the price right now is the Baltimore Orioles. This is bad. I think it's a really bad start. I think if there's actually one team, I know we just talked about the Red Sox rough start, and that's not really something that they needed. I think a team that kind of could ill afford to start off rough after what happened last year was the Baltimore Orioles. And I watched a couple of those games in that Pittsburgh series where they were swept. Man, there's something stinks. Something stinks. I can't quite put my finger on it at this current moment in time. I know they're an incomplete team. They don't really have the pitching staff for it. But when I'm not sure how much you've watched of them hitting wise. There is something there that I don't think that their approach is going to work in the long run. I think there's plenty of talent in that lineup. I'm not fully giving up on them, but the way that they're approaching some of these games, no, it's not good enough. Pete Alonso specifically, he just can't hit a fastball right now. Maybe it's a slow start. We've seen some of these batting speed statistics. Pete's bat speed has dipped a bit. I am not surprised by this, but that's besides the point. What do you make of the Orioles in this slow start? Is this something that they're able to overcome? Because I'm not too sure about that with that pitching.
Yeah, I think the way you're trying to look for it is to, if you remember back in the day in 2007, 2008 with the Mets, when Mike Burns goes on WFAN, is like, the core is rotten. You got to break up the core. Yeah. I think there's something off with that core in Baltimore, where like they win the 101 games in 23. They get Core and Burns, don't go forward in 24. 25, they fall flat in their faces and trade everybody under the sun. Then they bring Pete and Taylor Ward trying to get some right-handed power group. Something in that room is off. And they've changed managers, they've changed a lot of guys, but that the Gunnar Henderson, Vassallo, Rutschman, Core, like, they have not done well as a group for about a year and a half now. And I think like the Mets were very hesitant to give Pete long years for a reason, because I do think the bat speed, yes, he's down a little bit. Maybe it picks up as the weather warms up. That's certainly possible here. But a lot of the same traits he showed in 24 when he had the bad year, but he sat on the market forever before he came back to the Mets. Are coming back in terms of the strikeouts, the not getting as many good fastballs to hit here. And now he's not hitting behind Juan Soto anymore. Like, that's a big difference in terms of what you're seeing at the plate here. And something you have to be worried about if you're an Oriole fan. Yes, you're 4-6. Yes, you have some interesting pitchers theoretically with Shane Baz and the like.
Their ceilings are so limited. Keep going though. Sorry.
It's just, like, you look at this group here and like, if you're not getting it now with Pete in year 1, like, what's going to happen in year 3, year 4, year 5 when, you're sitting there and Gunnar Henderson's like walking to free agency in 3 years, and he's going to like the Dodgers.
They're gonna have to trade though. They should have traded Basser. I understand the Corbin Burns move; it made sense, but this is why I got more annoyed when you have new ownership in Baltimore. They were not aggressive enough in free agency with the pitching. Framber Valdez should have been an Oriole. Even Suarez, for God's sakes, like, there should have been something like that. If Baz is your big ticket, with pitching, you have a problem. Taylor Ward trade was fine. I know Holiday is going to be coming back. I know they have plenty of other hitters. I think they will hit. But there comes a certain point where you mention it, your nucleus has been playing poorly for quite some time, and you've changed other aspects of your ball club. That tells me don't blow it up, rearrange things. Pete, I've said it for quite some time. He is going to fall off a cliff. And I already think there are signs of that. We talk about the bat speed. You're right to a degree. I think you're 100% accurate on it with the weather heating up. But there are some other factors there where bat speeds of other Baltimore Orioles have not dipped like Pete's have. Okay? At his size, at his age, the way he's seeing fastballs right now because he's not hitting behind Juan Soto, that is going to age terribly. It's not going to be good. When you have a couple miles an hour off on your swing compared to recent years, at that size, it's going to be a problem. And with historically on how he approaches at bats, he'll go chasing. We've seen it. He's very inconsistent like that. He makes up for it because his power is immense. If that dips, man, like it is not as good as some people think with Pete Alonso. And I think to your point, if that shows within year one, it's going to be a long 5 years. And we've seen some jokes made about Chris Davis 2.0 already. I don't think it's that bad, but
it's not that bad. But like the issue with Pete is like we talk about this all like in our own like private chats here. Like
right.
Alonso's a 30 home run hitter is a lot less valuable than Pete Alonso's a 40 home run hitter because of
and
what
he
else.
hasn't hit 40 that often.
No.
As people like to remember. There's his greatest power years were years ago. It's like last year was great, one of the best of his career. You could also argue that isn't a walk year with Juan Soto there. There are plenty of protection in that line. There was plenty of protection in a streaky Mets lineup. And Pete is a streaky hitter too. It's not like that this guy is just always month after month after month consistent. He was part of the reason why they almost missed out in 2024. Part of what he was doing last year in 2025, there were inconsistent moments, especially over the summer, but that was the entire Mets lineup. I don't want to put it on him, but this is who he is at the end of the day. I think when the going gets tough, Pete Alonso has been in negative locker rooms. I think he's part of the problem. He isn't the main one, but I just don't see it with Pete. So I'm not sure Baltimore turns it around. I think that they actually end up making a trade, probably with a franchise that could afford to end up trading pitchers for some hitters. We'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe the Mets are a match there.
All I know is you feel bad for Orioles fans on two things. He's like in terms of like Pete, the locker room leader. We've seen Pete try and be the leader. We saw this in 21 specifically when Mets were wilting down the stretch, and he was all like, "Oh, sunshine and rainbows, smile, come out tomorrow, things be okay." It was not okay. They missed the playoffs. We saw he's been part of some bad collapse in the Mets locker room. So can't blame it all for him, but he was in there and didn't help save things here. And you feel bad for those Oriole fans. You mentioned the owner taking over 24. Like the fact that his first orbit is not we're signing Gunnar Henderson long term is such a damning indictment on that franchise because they missed the boat, and there is no chance they will ever get him to sign a contract before he hits free agency.
I mean, I do feel bad for them because I have never seen the Baltimore Orioles have a good pitching staff from conscious memory, right? I'm born in 1995. Basically been watching full seasons of baseball since 2003, maybe. I literally saw Orioles fans heading into this year. I don't know if I ever sent you the message. They were like, this is the best Orioles pitching staff I've seen, probably since like the early 2010s. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's terrible. Yeah. Good Lord. That's a fucking problem. If Zach Eflin's like a headliner in your pitching staff, that's not good.
They have a lot of threes.
A lot of four. I think you're being generous. A lot of fours. Heading over to another Orange team. This is Tony Vitello of the San Francisco Giants. This guy, I respect what he did at the college level. He's a PR fucking nightmare. Just to put it bluntly, this guy's a fucking walking disaster. He's handled things poorly in that first series where he's like, oh, there's a lot of nervous energy. He's being way too transparent. There's certain moments in which you shoot it straight. You let the public know, hey, we're shit right now. We got to do a better job of it. It starts with me. Tony Vitello, I'm going to read you this quote because this is, we all saw the incident with Matt Chapman chewing out Schmidt after he had a poor throw. He was a disaster against the Mets. stealing second base in the bottom of the ninth inning when he didn't have to.
Down
Throws over
three.
to first base sucked. Just he was terrible, Chapman.
Yep.
Here's the quote from Mr. Vitello that you'll love. And it starts, this is Evan Webeck was talking about. Matt Chapman took accountability for his base running gaffe and his otherwise forgettable week. Tony Vitello revealed the Giants had two other incidents behind closed doors besides the one that was captured on camera between Chapman and Schmidt. Obviously, that was at the pitching mound. This is a quote from Vitello. That incident between two of our players that everyone saw? Yeah, that's behind us. We also had two more of those, in case anybody was wondering. No, Tony, no one wanted to wonder or wanted to know about that. You cannot come out and publicly state, oh, yeah, you saw that disaster that was at the pitching mound. Yeah, man, not really good. Not good for our PR, not good for our clubhouse. By the way, that happened a couple more times. Just want to let you guys know. Are you an idiot? How does that help? You guys looked awful. Their batting, their lineup is garbage. Yeah. It looked like garbage against the Mets. I don't think that they had many redeeming qualities. Not just the way that they take at bats, the lack of power. Basically, it's very top heavy. After you go past Ramos, there's not much there.
No.
They had huge issues. It was a huge gamble for Buster Posey to hire Tony Vitello to begin with. I think he's already regretting it, man. Like, he's just, it's incompetence on all sorts of levels. And probably proving why you don't make this move. This is probably going to turn off any other GM, president of baseball operations, from ever hiring straight out of college again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason no one's done it, because it's completely different games, the college game and the pro game, in terms of, like we mentioned before, the equipment is different. Like, you're hitting with aluminum bats in the college level compared to wood bats in the pro. That's not besides the point here. I mean, just hearing him openly admit, oh yeah, instead of just, doing the typical, like, okay, like, we talked about this, we met in the room, like, oh no, don't worry, guys, there's more dysfunction that you're not aware of. I'm just gonna bring out to the public. And maybe he figures, like, I'm BMOC, I actually, put the air of the dirty laundry to get people, be more accountable. This almost feels like, were you a Seinfeld guy?
Yeah, I like it. I'm I'm curved first, but yeah.
Yeah, you watch. I mean, like, you remember George of the Yankees? He's trying to get fired to, like, end up taking the job as a Mets, like, scouting, like, assistant or whatever. Like, it feels like that with Tony Vitello a little bit, where maybe, like, I don't think it's intentional. It's almost like, boy, like, I regret leaving Tennessee. Like, I had a good thing there. Now I'm here with all these pros who don't respect me and don't think that, like, I know what I'm doing. Like, maybe I just want to go back to college. And, like, would not shock me, if after this year that Tony Vitello runs back to college, because I think, like, he is in way over his head for, like, compared to what he thought he was doing.
Do you think he even lasts the full year? That's I'm headed towards one of the quickest firings that we've seen. This could get out of hand fast.
I mean, I would put the timing here more like, watch the end of the college baseball season in June, July. Like, I would not be shocked if there's, like, a big name program, like, in, like, the SEC that fires their coach and tries to throw a bullet of money Tony Vitello to come back. I would not be shocked if that happens.
Well, if you're Tony Vitello, why would you even want to stay in San Francisco anyways? I think this idea that, like, bringing in Buster Posey was more about string on the hearts of Giants fans. And I'm not saying, like, Posey is incompetent. He's trying to bring in new ideas, approach things differently, right? Like, aggressive moves for Devers, being aggressive in free agency on certain players. Whereas, like, in the past that the Giants were, like, attempting half-ass or not to go in on guys. Like, they get Blake Snell, but it's an opt-out heavy deal that he ends up leaving for your all-time rivals. It's just, there's been a lot of mismanagement with the Giants, and truthfully, they've only looked good because of that one season that they had where they won over 100 games and then end up losing in the first round. The Giants, ever since that dynasty ended, have not been a good franchise. Like, I think the allure has worn off. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they had that 1 year that came out of nowhere. They won, like, 107 games, and like, but other than that, they've been playing, like, third, fourth place in the NL West for, like, the entire time.
They've been awful. Like, they have not been good. They're again, you traded for Devers, you give up some of your top prospects, and now Devers is. I mean, the construction doesn't make sense. We talk about, like, the left side of their defense is good. Adames and Chapman. Well, I mean, not Chapman in 2026. It's been looking good, but ideally it would be better, but then you like put in Luis Ariz in second base. Like he's a good hitter. We know all about that. He's more of your traditional style, but doesn't draw enough walks to kind of warrant where he's at. He's not a good defensive player. Devers is a disaster. They just put him in, and he basically almost lost the Mets the game at first base too. I mean, sorry, lost the game against the Mets. Dude, like they're not a good team. They're not constructed well. I think Posey was trying to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. They're bad. I don't think it's changing. Hell, Drew Gilbert isn't even up with the ball club.
Yeah,
Gilbert, what is Drew Gilbert at this point? Remember, like everybody, and Jose Buto might get Tommy John surgery. I know he had some
yeah,
issues. Tidwell's looked pretty good for them, and who they netted in those deadline trades. I mean, come on, they just stink, right? Like, just call a spade at this rate. I don't see how they survive this.
yeah. I don't think so either. And I mean, I was looking at more stuff on Vitello while you were talking here. Like I went back to like his introductory like press conference here. He basically said like it was a selfish decision for me to leave Tennessee to go to the Giants. Which to me, like if you're hearing that, like I don't know how there's not immediate red flags there. It's like I made the right choice, a selfish one. So like makes you wonder here, like does he like have buyer's remorse now about going to deal with the pros and
Absolutely.
like because like obviously when you're a college coach, like I mean, yes, you have a transfer portal now, you have NIL stuff you're dealing with, but like you're like the guy of the program. Like everybody has to like go through you to like get playing time, get it bad. So like you're telling me a guy like Rafael Devers or Matt Chapman takes the college manager seriously? I don't see that whatsoever.
Devers couldn't even respect Alex Cora.
Yeah. And to me, I think that that's probably why he's airing out some of his dirty laundry because he's trying to gain control of that room back. If he has it, it makes you wonder here. And because the comparison here to former former great college coach Lou Holtz, rest in peace, who he infamously spent 1 year as an NFL head coach with the Jets, resigned in the middle of the season, went back to college and said, and I will quote here, God did not put Lou Holtz on this earth to coach in the pros. So I wonder if we were heading that way with Tony Vitello, where he just like, middle of like July, he's resigning to go take a head coaching job back in college.
There hasn't been many sports where it transitions well. I can't.
Urban Meyer also fits in this category.
Urban Meyer. I mean, Nick Saban is a different thing with the Dolphins and competency. We saw it with Patino. We saw it with Calipari. Billy Donovan was mediocre. The only real success, and it's not even to toot the Boston Celtics horn, that I could think of was Brad Stevens. Unless I'm missing out on a college coach that came up.
Jim Harbaugh also.
Harbaugh's, yeah. Harbaugh and Larry Brown, I guess you could say.
Larry Brown kept switching back and forth between.
Yeah, I don't even know what to define him as at that point. Harbaugh is, for my money, the best football coach of his generation. I count him after the Saban, and I don't know, he's kind of in between like what McVay is and all that kind of stuff. Dude, like it's a disaster. Vitello, I think the NL West as a whole, by the way, just to kind of round up here, they're a joke. Honestly, like the Padres are worse. The Giants are not good. The D-backs have too many injury issues. And then the Rockies. Like that, the NL West is so much worse than I thought it would be this year. And I know it's very early. We're here on April 7th. Maybe making declarations like that is a bit premature. I don't see it. I think they're all really bad at this rate. It's just, I think the Dodgers might win this division by 25 games.
Yeah. The Giants have a negative 27 run differential already. That's worse than the White Sox.
That's so bad. Hey, respect the White Sox. They're not too bad. They're
only one game better. They're 4-6, and the Giants are 3-8.
Any other topics around Major League Baseball that you wanted to just maybe bring up right before we end up here? I think we ripped ourselves for poor picks with the Boston Red Sox and some of the other areas. Let's bet ourselves on the back of Miami Marlins.
I've taken me a call on the Giants. So it's the Giants make the playoffs. So that was wrong on.
Giants, Red Sox. No, I was not a fan of the Giants, but I awful pick with the Red Sox. I will say, however, Yordan Alvarez could stay healthy, could win American League MVP. It's possible. Secondly, Miami Marlins, man, people are not realizing it yet. These guys are legit. This is not a joke. This is not a fluke on what's been happening here. Their lineup is much better. a guy like Xavier Edwards is the biggest pain in the ass in Major League
Yeah.
Baseball. And I say that with the utmost respect. That dude is a real great player all around, type of Marlins player that you're going to hate to go up against.
Yeah. I will
Hear me
also,
out on this? They could finish third in the NL East.
they could. And I think you're going to get a second. There's a chance to get a second wild card team out. Yeah, wild card team out of the Central as well. Because with this year, with you might get two wild card teams out of Central is what I meant to say here. Because I think like obviously the Cubs are off to a slow start. You figure they'll bounce back. The Pirates obviously rip off the 4 wins in a row after they bring up like Connor Griffin and they get themselves here. And look who's sitting on top of the NL Central already. Our boys from the Brewers, 8-2.
What a surprise, man.
Yeah.
It's honestly like I think Sprout has struggled a little bit over there. But I mean Harrison looks like a completely new player. Nobody should be surprised by everything, and they haven't even had Chiriot because he's been hurt.
Garrett Mitchell has 13 RBIs in 10 games.
Doesn't that say it all right there? I mean, what else do you want to say with that? Yeah, look, it's just CJ Abrams has shown a lot of power too. That's just another guy to pop up top of my head. Mookie Betts, oblique strain. Some other kind of like relatively big news across Major League Baseball regarding health there. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much left to say or think of off the top of my head. We'll be back next week.
Yep.
April is here finally. Just very exciting stuff. We get Mets baseball a little bit earlier than we had anticipated, so that'll be fun. They'll play in a few hours here in New York. You're heading to the Athletic Series this weekend, correct?
I'll also be there today. I will be in the Bark for the Diamondback game.
Oh, well, fantastic. You go and give us some good updates over there. Any other final plugs? You did a great job. Congratulations on winning all that cash. Enjoy your walk and roll delights today. You deserve it. Again, everybody can go and follow you at mphillips331. Any other kind of updates now that college basketball season is over for you?
Yeah, so just to throw some usual plugs out here, Just on the Suffering podcast. We had an episode out already this week. My guy from the PGA Tour, Dan DRT, stopped by. We previewed the Masters. You're looking for some insight on that tournament. That's coming up here. Troy Morrell's will be back later this week. We're going to wrap up our March Madness coverage over there. The Sky Guys, there's actually a new Star Wars show that came out this week, Maul Shadowlord. Animated show.
I heard about this. Yes, this I actually have heard about.
Yeah, they dropped their first 2 episodes today. The Sky Guys are coming back later this week to break it down, recover all 5 weeks of the show. That's coming up over there. Fans have some lingering college basketball coverage over there, some NFL draft preview stuff coming there. And the Mets coverage, Mets on SI. So throw all that out there as well. So always fun to check all that stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're a big Star Wars fan. So we're less than a month away from your guys' favorite day.
Also, again, 6 weeks from a movie for the first time in 7 years.
I'm good. You guys enjoy that. As long as you enjoy it, I'll be happy for you. Yeah, and you guys can go follow me everywhere at Martino Puccio. Listen, just been a real rough go of it past couple weeks in sports. Good to see Mr. Fitzgerald ousted with the Devils. We talk about the Baltimore Orioles core being disgusting. I have been the most blunt person when it comes to the Devils, and I am a limited hockey guy in terms of knowledge. But I know shit when I see it. The Devils have been shit. I hope that they fix whatever the hell's going on over there. We'll see the NFL draft coming up in a couple weeks. Again, this is part with U Stadium. So U Stadium is having their NFL draft party. You guys should go and check that out. Kerry Rhodes, former great New York Jet, ball hawk, is going to be at the draft event party along with Braylon Edwards as well. So always very exciting, fun stuff. Going to be over at Harrison Meadows on the night of round 1 of the NFL draft. You can play some golf. Links will be in the description. Go and check out all the U Stadium social media stuff for that. I will be at the draft party, Mike. There are fun rumors that it will not be Arvel Reese. It's sounding like David Bailey going at number 2. I did also see Daniel Jeremiah float the idea and the possibility of Cardell Tate going second in the draft in the New York Jets. Hey, listen, man, I don't really care. Best player available. I just don't want to take Arvel Reese off of the idea that he is going to be an edge guy, which is not really something that he is profile-wise, and that's something that Frankie Vittorini had talked about. I know Frankie was on You're Just in the Suffering podcast a couple of weeks ago discussing that stuff. Are you somewhat hyped for the Jets in the draft at all? Like, can I gauge your level of interest there? You're just like, get me to 2027.
Yeah. I'm intrigued to see what they do because I feel like you and I are both like in the Muji mob. We both think Darren Muji knows what he's doing, which I think is nice.
He's
We've been through,
competent enough, yeah.
yeah. It's like he seems to have an idea of what he's doing now. I don't trust
Right.
the coach yet. We'll see.
I'll never trust the coach. I think he's shown enough levels of incompetence. Yes, but thank you guys all for watching. We appreciate all the support that you have given us on clips and all that kind of stuff. So don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel over here at Martino Puccio everywhere. If you're interested in more World Cup and soccer content coming up, I know there is no Italy going to be there, but there's plenty of other fun topics there. We appreciate you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.